Thank you very much. So, welcome everybody to this meeting, and to our visitors who are looking in. Welcome to. We'd love to have you on board. I'm going to ask our birthday boy Moko to open our meeting with a Kerikeri, please, with a prayer. Thank you, Moko.
Kia ora. Thank you, Mikara. I'm 21 in a decade today, and I still feel 21 in my soul, so I'm going to take that one.
Good idea.
Okay. This is our council prayer in Te Reo Māori. Ka tuku mātou kia kaha mai ngā māngai kua whiriwhirihia mo te kaunihira o tautokere ki te raki, ki te mahi me te ngākau auaha, me te hakamahi i ngā pūkinga, me te mātauranga i roto i ngā wānanga, me ngā hakataunga ki hakaturia i tētahi hapori e matatika ana, e tūkotahi ana ka mutu, ka piki anu i te oranga o tō tātou rohe, ka hakatau anō i ngā take o te rohe i runga i te tika me te pono. Āmene.
Amen.
Āmene. Kia ora, Moko.
Kia ora, Moko. Thank you very much for that. And again from us all, happy birthday. And you talk about you still feel 21. Well, I'm 50 years past 21 and I still feel 21. Not that often nowadays, though, unfortunately, but never mind. Can I also just mention the fact that we've had other elected members, and I know there are staff also who've had birthdays, and Rachel, Felicity, David Clinton, who's been very quiet about his birthday, but it's either been or coming up. So I hope I haven't missed anybody, but just recognise all those. And incidentally, my daughter had a birthday yesterday as well. This is just in passing. So are there any apologies or declarations of interest? I don't think there are. Well, there's certainly no apologies.
Your Worship, I just wanted to... Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Rachel's given me notice of a conflict of interest when we come to item. Which item is it?
6.6. Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah. So we'll just note that when we get to that item. If you just remind us again, please, Rachel. So we don't have any deputations. Sean, Aisha, to my knowledge, I think there's none that we're aware of.
That's correct.
Good. Okay. So mural announcements. I just want to make. And these are now sort of reiterated to some extent. There's ongoing discussions, as we had yesterday with our workshop on the three waters, but on the whole issue of future of local government. There's an email come around this morning, Christchurch City's position, the Southern Mayors have established positions, so's Auckland, so's Wellington, so's Dunedin, and many other local authorities. So that's under discussion, and Local Government New Zealand have got a special meeting next Tuesday to discuss the issue and the discussions. We then have ongoing discussions with Minister and Prime Minister, etc. So I'll keep you posted on that as it evolves and develops. And of course, we had our workshop yesterday on the three waters, and Sean and Glenn and the team will be writing a paper for us to get to the government. We're also, just so you know, the Mural Forum for Northland is drafting a paper along the lines of the Southern Mayors, and that will be sent down to Wellington as well. COVID, of course, you're all updated on that. There's been a slight softening of the rules as far as travel goes for people who have relatives who are unwell and are dying. That changed when we went from level 4 to level 3, and as a consequence we've been able to assist at least one person through that. I just want to acknowledge Deidre for the work that she's been doing and helping in that regard, so thank you very much. Now, if Aisha will explain this more if it needed, but what we've agreed is that where there are committee papers that go to committees and a whole lot of background, and particularly where they might be 5 pages long or 20 pages long, whatever they are, explaining the issue, what has happened, been the practice in the past, is then we've duplicated them and put them into the council agenda. And so we've decided that actually what we will do in the agenda from now on is put reference to those papers so they're online, so if anyone wants to read them, they can do so. And Aisha's just said to me this morning, which I agree with her, that if there's a recommendation that comes from that committee to council, then of course that needs to be part of our council agenda. So just informing you of that. Those papers are available, but they will be online rather than us cutting down a tree every time we have to duplicate them. The issue of heritage is a matter that's growing, and my apologies, Felicity, for not having you on that panel. You are now, so thank you for making the offer, along with David Clinton and Kelly, and we will keep working on that to make sure it's covered. It seems to be an issue that's expanding in Paihia particularly, and so Darren and his team will be working with those three councillors and keeping us all informed as that evolves. Just note in the agenda, please, there's an item 6.5 for those of you who get hard copies. It was left out. Aisha drew it to our attention. It's 6.5 on page 135, and we'll deal with that when we come to it. And then there are a number of reviews that you might want to tell your constituents. For example, the representation reviews out. There's issues around the three waters and a whole number of other things that we're consulting on. So when you get an opportunity, if you're talking with a group of people, just remind them to go on the website and have a look at the opportunity they have to make a submission to council, so that we can so they can have an input into it if they wish to do so. That's all the mural announcements I have to make. So we will now come to the agenda, and I will ask you to turn to page 12, confirmation of the minutes, and I am happy to move those. Do I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second your wish.
Thank you. Is there any comments on the accuracy of the minutes? Anybody want to make comment? If not, I'll put the resolution. All in favour, please say aye. Oh, we have to vote. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm in favour. Sorry, I forgot about that. Aisha and Anne.
In favour.
David.
Aye.
Dave.
In favour.
Felicity.
In favour.
Matty.
Aye.
Rachel.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Moko.
Aye.
And John.
Aye.
Thank you all. That is carried. So we now move to item 6.1 on page 25. And would somebody like to move the vehicle crossing bylaw, please?
Happy to move, your worship.
Thank you, Rachel. Have a seconder, please.
Dave Collard, I'll second it.
Thank you, Dave. The item is open for discussion. Does anybody wish to comment on it? John? See, John, was that you with your hand? No, Kelly with your hand up, beg your pardon, and then Rachel.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm happy with the alterations to the bylaw. It's been through committee, but I do want to I'm not sure if there's any staff that can give some clarity on page 27 where it talks about clause 9, the terminology, other design approved by the council. I'm not sure I understand how staff will ensure the design will still meet the parts of the engineering standards that address stormwater, what's the terminology, egress or overflows onto private property causing flooding, and also the mobility and disability or multimodal, use on our footpaths.
Can you pick that up, Darren?
Is like perhaps there's an internal operational policy or a practice note for how that's going to be addressed. Maybe it's deeper within the bylaw. Rachel Smith probably knows where it's covered, but I went through and I don't have comfort that those things are going to be met.
Darren, are you able to comment on that, please?
Sure. Thanks, Councillor Stratford. Your worship, through the chair. Donald Shepherd, sorry, the author of the report is.
Donald.
So I'll pass to Donald for comment on that. Don.
Welcome, Donald.
Good morning. Welcome. Basically, the intention of the bylaw is to default to the engineering standards in almost all cases. The reason for including the little subclause or other council approved design is in response to some of the public submissions that we didn't allow enough flexibility, that there are on occasions exceptions. And submissions were received, particularly from federated farmers, the forestry sector, that on occasion we might slightly moderate what is required. However, it's still going to be, the intention is for things to be safe and correct. So any council or staff decision would be in light of those standards.
Thank you, Donald. In other words, what we're going to do is apply a modicum of common sense while still adhering to the bylaw.
I think that's a very good summary.
Does that help, Kelly?
Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
Yeah, I guess
Oh,
I've got comfort that it's not going to happen in an urban environment. Then it'll apply more in a rural environment. But there are cases where a neighbouring property's stormwater stuff from their driveway ends up on a neighbouring property. So as long as our teams are very aware, we want to prevent that stuff. Because it's a big burden on many staff's plates, even our legal team, who I bumped into yesterday. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Kelly. Rachel?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just very quickly acknowledging that this bylaw came through a robust debate at committee, and just wanted to acknowledge the work that's gone into not just this bylaw, but our suite of bylaws, as we're starting to really make progress in catching up. So that applies to this paper and the next paper as well, but especially acknowledge the work that Donald has put in. Fully support the adoption of this bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. And Darren, if you and Donald can take that on and pass them on to the team, we would be most grateful. Thank you. Felicity.
Thank you, Your Worship. Namahi. I wanted to support that we've updated our bylaw in recognition of those matters raised by federated farmers and the logging industry. I like that we've used an example from another council that's worked in practice for some time and taking a practical approach for that. I note the matters raised by Councillor Stratford. However, in terms of what this bylaw encompasses, it's an existing bylaw that's been in place for some time, and when someone does a building consent, section E1 of the Building Act requires surface water control, and so I'm sure that the building officers are encompassing that as part of their building consent considerations for the stormwater aspect. With regard to what Councillor Stratford's raised about the egress related to disabilities, I note that the bylaw is being updated that something just happened there, sorry. Can you still see me?
Yeah, you're good. Yep. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Sorry, it's raining quite hard here. Yeah, sorry, it's raining quite hard here. I just wanted to raise that that the duration in the bylaw has increased, that that the repairs can be done over a longer time frame. And I liked it in the bylaw as well, how they updated it to be for, instead of a 1 year period, you can now have 3 years to do your vehicle crossing once the permit's approved. So thank you for the staff and taking that practical approach so that those people that are the doers in our community can hopefully get more stuff done.
Thank you, Felicity. Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking at understanding what Kelly has drawn our attention to, and I appreciate what it is, what it is, because I know that just recently I bought up a property that was having trouble with roadside water on their property, and I think that this will be relevant to them and many other rural sites, in particular into the deep country that we have around our region. So thrilled to see that and fully support the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, if there's no other comments, we'll put the motion to the vote. Can we have the vote up, please, Aisha, when you're ready? Or Kim? Thank you. I'm in favour. Anne?
In favour.
David?
Support.
Dave?
In favour.
Felicity?
In favour.
Matty?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Moho?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Right, that's passed unanimously. So thank you all very much for your input onto that. Can I ask you now, please, to turn to page 64, item 6.2, treated water supply. Recommendations for making new bylaw. I will move. Do I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Your Worship.
Thank you, Rachel. The matter is open for discussion. I have nothing to add. I think it's been well done again. I appreciate all the work that's gone into it. Rachel, do you wish to make comment as seconder?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to acknowledge the use of plain English in this bylaw and our others. I look forward to us as an organisation making progress in the space of our everyday doers, as Councillor Foy has put it, being able to understand what they can and can't do in their own backyards, and also the especially acknowledge the water restriction levels that have been inserted into this bylaw as well. This is a really good space that we need to be controlling hard, and I feel really good about this mahi. Thank you.
Thank you. John, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, specific comment to this bylaw. So I would, and based on what was said last time, may I make a suggestion when we put the bylaw there, we probably should include a section on the principles in which we're going to be operating at. So when that will provide a bit of a guideline to staff or people interpreting the bylaw to bring our values and principles into the context, and that could actually address some of the concerns that were raised. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if you would like to take it up with Sean and Darren and just see if there's any work needs to be done on that. Thank you. I don't see any other hands up, so I'm going to put the motion. I'm in favour. Wait till the vote comes through. Thank you, Kim. I'm in favour. Anne?
In favour.
David?
Aye.
Dave?
In favour.
Felicity?
In favour.
Matty?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Moho?
Aye.
John?
Yep, aye from me.
Thank you. And another one at unanimous. And can I just make the point that the reason that this one and the previous one are unanimous is because of all the very, very hard work that's gone into it. And again, we just want to thank you and congratulate the staff for the background work that's been done. Thank you. Just acknowledging that. Can I ask you please to turn to item 6.3, page 119, and I'll move the recommendation. Do I have
Happy
a
to
seconder, please?
Kelly.
Sorry. Kelly, thank you, Kelly. Kelly, do you wish to make? I have no comment to make. Do you wish to make comment, Kelly?
Yeah, just briefly want to say hooray, we now have this policy in place, and but top of mind for me, it's not just going to befit the Joint Climate Change Committee, it's also one step closer to our what do we call them, that amendment that I chucked in at our Māori wards debate, appointing Māori to our committees, or establishing a Māori standing committee. So yeah, I hope to see an update on that work stream soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Rachel, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Carolyn, for getting this policy to us. It's really awesome to have it in place. It's a really well-structured policy, and I especially want to draw attention to the monitoring and review section. It's really great to have the proactive, how does this keep being in place, I guess, and what is the mechanism to make sure it's fit for purpose, so really appreciate that. I think it would be great to get an update on the meeting fees that have been set by the other councils once they've all been adopted, and that could just be informally perhaps to me as the chair of the committee, so that we can just make sure that ours is still fit for purpose. So I just wanted to flag that. I also had a question, the monitoring and review section, point 2, it says that the policy will be reviewed at the end of each triennium. I was just wondering if that was standard practice, and if whether or not it would make more sense to review it at the beginning of each triennium, acknowledging that that's when the appointing to committees and things would be happening. So just wanted some comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it is intended would be the beginning rather than the end, but I see Carolyn's got her hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship, and welcome everybody. I'm not going to turn my camera on because I know that we will instantly lose connectivity in my household. So to the first point, Councillor Smith, I can confirm that within the report, the outstanding council to adopt their policy is just kaipara. So the amounts that are stated within the report are those that have been currently adopted. And yes, thank you for that nice pickup. It should really be done at the beginning of a triennium as we establish the committees to work out which is going to be the best fee structure based on available budgets and what types of appointments we seek to make, whether that's appointment of new committees with independent members or whether that's appointment of independent or advisory members to committees themselves. So I will take that on as an action to update that and make sure that that's the version that goes on our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline, and it is a good point, Rachel.
Your Worship,
John,
do we need to capture that as part of the resolution? Apologies, or is it at that point?
It just become a practice. I don't think we need to move it.
Thank you,
John?
Carolyn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You see in here there's a clause which talks about the principles, and that's what I'm sort of referring to, so that's quite good. But just generally on the, I would like to see flexibility, and at the beginning of the triennium, work out what council committees, because we're talking about, they're more than just council committees, there's community board committees as well. But with council committees, they are there for to actually help and assist with better overall governance of council. I would like the flexibility to be able to appoint subject matter experts, most appropriate, and the fee being worked out that best fits. You know that in the Assurance Compliance and Risk Committee, you'll see that there is an appointment that was done now for 2 years and running. It's working really well. And I think that flexibility to be able to pay experts what they would be due, I think is needs to be included. But again, I'm happy with the policy as it is. That's part of the process we're going to go through.
Thank you. And your comments are well made, John. We do need to have that flexibility as well. Carolyn, no doubt, will have noted that. Thank you. Given there's no other hands up, I intend to put the resolution. Thank you, Kim. I'm in favour. Anne?
In favour.
David?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Felicity?
Aye.
Matty?
Against.
Against, okay. Rachel,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Moko,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you all for your participation. The next item I will draw your attention to is the 6.4 on page 126. And I will move.
I would like to move.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Felicity, you can move. Is there a seconder, please?
Also second, Dave Collard.
Dave Collard. Thank you, Dave. Felicity, do you wish to make comment?
Thank you. Thank you, Worship. I just note that the current resolution is set out A and B that pertains to the poor condition of the building and the recommendation to demolish.
Hang on.
Hang on, wrong one.
We're doing the
Where?
appointment of
You've
directors
jumped
to
ahead.
council organiser.
Have I jumped ahead?
Yeah, we're doing the updated policy appointment of directors to council organisations on page 126.
Oh, great. Well, I'm not as interested in that one, but obviously you can see that I'm very interested in the next one.
Yes, I have picked
in
that up,
terms of,
Felicity.
So I'm happy to move
But in terms-
6.4, Mr. Mayor.
Right, and Dave Collard seconded. John, do you need to say any statement as mover?
No, we've been through
Dave
that.
Collard.
No, nothing further to add.
All right, I intend to put the motion then. You have to vote, please, Kim. I'm in favour. Anne,
In favour.
David,
In favour.
Dave,
Aye.
Felicity,
aye.
Matty,
Abstained.
Rachel,
Aye.
Kelly,
Against.
Moko,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. I ask you now to go to 6.5 on 135. It's been moved by Felicity. Is there a seconder, please?
Oh, Dave Collard was second.
Dave Collard. Thank you, Dave. Felicity, the floor is yours. You can repeat what you've already told us.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry. It's raining quite hard here, so sometimes the service cuts out. I wanted to raise that this motion is under A, B, and then it has some options C, D, and E. So
Yep.
A and B relates to the structural deficiencies of the building, the structure, and recommends the demolition of the units. I concur with the recommendation. Part C is what I would like to move. I'm not sure how it works in terms of standing orders on the video here today. However, the logic behind moving matter C is that we haven't had confirmed direction about the social housing provision, and in particular the new investment for infrastructure that the government is offering. This site here, you'll note where it brings up the site plan on page 140, you can see that there's a stream or a drain that runs behind the units. This area historically has been prone to flooding and has actually flooded those units previously. So I just want to clarify to staff that I'm moving A and B and C.
Okay.
So to not do the reconstruction now until we get that further clarity. On page 140 as well, you'll see that the site really quite open. It's quite underutilised in terms of the available space. Housing is a significant issue in the far north, and I would like to see more housing availability, which means that we need to increase our densities to provide for more housing, which in this case would look at further options if we look at it in a more strategic planned way by waiting. Thank you.
And Felicity, what you're saying by including C is it's common sense, because of course there's a whole lot of housing discussion going on right now with the government and local government and us as you know, there are councillors and Sean and other officers are involved in those discussions. Dave Collard, I've just got to ask a second, you're happy for C to be part of the resolution?
I most definitely support what Felicity has said. Having had personal knowledge of the flooding that has occurred in the past down there, and seen the devastation that it caused, and I think that the very light density down there is something that could be remedied as well. So just a mere replacement would not cut it for me. So I would be happy to leave it as a vacant site pending future development.
Thank you very much. Councillor Smith and then Councillor Cratford, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Foy, for A, B and C. I am in support of those. My concern around C is that on page 136 it states this opportunity may be lost if divestment does not occur within a short time frame. And I acknowledge that we are going through the process of investigating divestment of our housing for the elderly portfolio, but I am concerned. I asked staff what our timeframes were looking at around that, and it's been indicated that we're looking at approximately 3 years before we have a clear sense of what that direction might look like. So I am really concerned about leaving this site vacant for that period of time while we investigate the portfolio as a whole, especially acknowledging the housing needs of the Ketukiri area and the wider Far North District as well. So I'd really appreciate some commentary as to whether or not there's any opportunity to investigate options and opportunities for this site in particular, acknowledging what Councillor Foy has pointed out about the underutilised opportunity with the size and availability of it, but also acknowledging the structural challenges that will come with constructing on it, which is why we are demolishing this in the first place. So I'd really appreciate some commentary as to whether or not this could be treated outside of that portfolio process, acknowledging its situation. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Rachel. I'll ask Sean if you or any of the staff comment on that, or can you give us a comment on that, if not today, for our next council meeting, please?
Can, Your Worship, and I'll make a comment now and just hand over to Andy on opportunity. But what's good about the motion that's on the table, and I won't assume it's passed until it is, but it gives us multiple options, including those that Councillor Smith is alluding to. We know that Kāinga Order has $3.8 billion, only $1 billion of which is up for grabs in a contestable fund, but they're also actively on the hunt around our region trying to build houses with non-local money for purposes of getting people out of cars and into a reasonable shelter. So that would be an example, I think, of what Councillor Smith's referring to. What are the more lateral options that don't just tie themselves to a 2 or 3 year review of our housing for the elderly portfolio, and we would go active on those and make no decisions unless we had councillor endorsement, of course, as usual. Andy, would you like to comment?
I think there's probably, through the chair, nothing more to add to that. We have put a proposal back to rebuild 3 new units on the site, and seeking additional budget should you wish to do that now, noting there is a waiting list for these sorts of facilities across the community. But clearly that needs to be put into the context of the future of the housing stock and housing opportunity across the far north.
Thank you, Andy. Rachel, is that satisfactory?
It is a really good response to know that it is possible. At the risk of being an overthinker, I would appreciate if we could capture something to that effect within the resolution. If there is support of the opportunities being explored for this site in particular, I acknowledge what Andy said about the proposal for reconstructing. However, we know well and good that we are not the best mechanism for reconstructing, and there are definitely other opportunities, especially in partnership with the likes of Te Rarawa and with Switzer Home potential as well. So I don't have words at the moment. I'm thinking on the fly, but if anybody else is willing to put up some additional words in C to capture that direction, I'd be happy to. Otherwise, I'll put my thinking cap on. I note that there's another couple of speakers.
I just wonder, Rachel, if we, rather than put it in the resolution, just noted that in the commentary, that's part of our expectation. Would that be satisfactory?
I think I would support that. Thank you, Your Worship. As long as it's picked up within the action sheet, that's the only.
Sean, if you could just note that, please, and make sure that that's picked up with Aisha and Kim, etc.
Kelly, Your Worship.
Thank you, Sean. Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Foy and Councillor Collard, for your comments. Your local knowledge is very helpful, but I did find the report was comprehensive enough for me to go with C as well. That I just want to acknowledge Andy and Jeanette. It's a really, having that supporting engineering guff at the back was really helpful in a flood zone. So yeah, I support A, B and C. Thank you.
Thank you. David Clinton, have you got your hand up? Or
Yes, I do, yes.
Right, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm also happy to support the option C. I think it would make no sense to rush in and rebuild on what looks like a less than promising site, frankly, for this sort of accommodation. I think maybe we should look at all options, potentially even something like an internal land swap to find an unutilised reserve somewhere and use that for building homes on, and revert to reserve on this site, which I don't know well, obviously, but yeah, as I said, this doesn't look a very promising candidate for long-term housing construction. If I may just ask a related question, it occurs to me that earlier in the year, Council undertook to purchase a couple of properties at Omapiri and assign some budget to renovating them for housing for the elderly. I wonder if not now, but if in the next short while we could have an update on what's happening with that investment too, given that we were, I think, aspiring to house another 7 people in those 2 buildings.
Sean, could you make a note of that and come to us, bring that to next meeting, please?
I'll bring it to you and the Deputy Mayor as we've recently discussed about additional papers, if that's right, Your Worship. But
yep,
yes, we have noted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there's no other hands up. I will put the motion. Kim, can we have the vote, please? Right, I'm in favour. Anne?
In favour.
David?
Aye.
Dave?
Yeah, in favour.
Felicity?
In favour.
Matty?
Abstained.
Rachel?
Acknowledging that I'd appreciate that note to be more substantial, please.
Okay, yeah, we'll ask Sean and staff just to work with you on it, Rachel. Thank you. Kelly?
Aye.
Moko?
Aye.
John?
Yeah, we actually do have a big program investigating all of this housing. So
anyway, that's right.
Focusing just on this is what we really should be doing.
Yeah. Thank you very much. All right, that's carried. I will ask you please to turn to 6.6, page 161. Exemptions to be granted. Rachel, I think from memory, this was the one that you asked conflict of interest. So I will move the motion. Is there a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Moko. And can we please note that Rachel is abstaining from this as she has a conflict? I don't have any comments to make. Moko, do you as seconder wish to make comment? You're okay. Does anybody wish to make comment? Kelly?
Thank you, Your Worship. There is, a lot of concern from the public that doing this exemption, isn't good transparency. But I just want to give people comfort that the organisations, Rollins Wood, Te Ahu Charitable Trust, Pohiranga Pai Twin Coast Cycle Trail, are still subject to charities reporting processes, which you can go online and look them up. on the charity's website, it has their all the stuff that they have to comply with there. Often they even have their financial reports. But yeah, just wanted to reiterate that.
Thank you, Kelly. Deputy Mayor Ann.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering what the methodology is to verify the criteria that is set out on page 163 in regard to turnover. At some point, particularly with regard to the Twin Coast Cycle Trail, these organisations will exceed that threshold. So what is the mechanism we have for making sure that we capture when that threshold is passed, and we have a reporting mechanism in place moving forward? I am mindful as always that where you're expending other people's funds, there does need to be a level of probity applied. Thank you.
Thank you. Janice, as the author, are you able to comment?
Through you, Chair, we wouldn't expect them to exceed those. It's usually around the compliance costs of creating a statement of intent. In terms of, as pointed out by Councillor Stratford, in terms of other reporting and financial reporting, that still stands as per their trust deeds. But this exempts them from the need to create the statement of intent and go through that process more than anything else.
Okay, Anne, is that satisfactory?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just note the comments, we wouldn't expect them to exceed that. I would just like some governance comfort that there is a mechanism to keep eyes on them, so if they do exceed that they're captured. Thank you.
All right, I'll ask Sean and Will and Janice just to give that consideration. Thank you. John Busich.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. I think that what Deputy Mayor's raised is a good point, but you know, as being on the charitable trust, or being on the Cycle Bay Trust, the spend is not high. Sure that there is a lot of spend on cycle lanes, for example. That is actually driven from council, because council provide all of that, comes under that banner. So I would say that what Janice said is 100% correct. It's very unlikely that they would exceed that figure. And I would expect staff looking at, and they do come to the meetings, and meeting minutes that were made available will see the trends. And I know as a trustee, we'll notify council as well should things change substantially with that limit would likely to be succeeded. And I'd expect all the others to do the same. So I don't think there's a very high risk, but obviously we need to have those procedures in place, as the Deputy Mayor pointed out. Thank you.
Thank you. As I say, we'll ask Sean and Will and Janice to give some thought as to how that might be achieved. All right, if there's no other comment, if you could lower your hand, please, John, unless you want to speak again. Thank you. I'm in favour. Anne?
In favour.
David?
Support.
Dave?
In favour.
Felicity?
In favour.
Matty?
Aye.
Rachel? Oh, so sorry, you abstained. That's right. Thank you.
Sorry.
Kelly? Yep, thank you.
Aye.
Moko?
Aye.
And John?
Yes, cool.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for that. I'll ask you to turn to page 165, 6.7.
I wish to declare a conflict, Your Worship.
Thank you, Kelly. I will move. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And just please note that Kelly has indicated conflict of interest. Right. Anne or John, do either of you wish to comment?
Thank you, Your Worship. As a seconder, I would like to support the recommendation. And this came up at a review. I said to Councillor Stratford, who is for the public record, an outstanding ambassador in the space of civil defence on behalf of the residents and ratepayers of the North District. I think she's an outstanding candidate for this role. I did express concern at the time, however, that Councillor Stratford's workload was significant, and I would relinquish this role on the grounds that she relinquished something to make sure that she didn't burn candles at both ends and snuff out that beautiful shining light that she is. I haven't seen that offer on the table yet, Councillor Stratford, and I'm not going to hold you to it. But I just think this is a great outcome, so I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Busich, any comments? And then Felicity.
No, not at all. Just straightforward common sense.
All good. Thank you. Felicity.
Thank you. Oh, I think Anne's stolen some of my words. I just wanted to extend those compliments. And we've got some sighs in the background, I think, from Councillor Radich there, who might want to learn to use the mute button. But instead of sighs, I think that some people in our council were positive, and one of those really positive, hardworking people is Kelly. And I just wanted to thank you for your expertise in this sector and recognise your experience. So fully support.
Thank you, Felicity. Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Carter. We'll take the opportunity to welcome Kelly to the fold of this particular branch of civil defence, me being the delegated person and her the alternative, but welcome the experience, and I will probably learn something. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no other comments, and do you wish to seconder to reply? All good. Councillor Kim will put the vote, please. I'm in favour. Anne?
In favour.
David?
In favour.
Dave?
Aye.
Felicity?
In favour?
Matty?
Well done, Kelly. Well done,
favour.
Kelly. You'll learn a lot.
Thank you, Matty. Rachel?
Aye.
Kelly's abstained.
Abstain.
Moko?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Right, that motion is carried. Thank you all very much. Can I ask you to turn to page 168 on 6.8, and I will move the resolution. Do I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. Dave Collard, your hand's up. Okay, I've got nothing to add. The schedule speaks for itself. Kelly, do you wish to make any comment?
I just appreciate being able to move this, although my water conference that I'm attending has now been pushed out to December thanks to COVID levels. Hopefully it does happen this side of Christmas, but yeah, still happy to move my meeting.
Thank you. Felicity? Oh, and then Moko?
Thank you, Worship. I wanted to thank the staff for organising meetings in Te Ahu and Te Hiku, in particular to our General Manager, Will Taylor. No mai haere mai to Te Hiku o Te Ika and for those committee meetings, and also for our December meeting as well. So we'll organise some nice kai there, I think, as well, you know, maybe some seafood. But I'm just really glad that we're having some meetings in Te Hiku. I will encourage some people from the public to come along. And as you know, I celebrate all things relating to Te Hiku, and we'll give you a bit of Te Hiku flavour for our meetings. Thank you.
And I could bring a cauliflower along, Felicity. Moko.
Kia ora. Thank you, Mayor Carter. I just wanted to note that since the publishing of this report, and because of COVID alert levels, our young elected members we're proud to win the rights to host here in the Far North. We're looking at a new date next February for that, so that's still on the calendar that I've got here. But we'll be looking at another date in February when hopefully everyone's had both their vaccine shots and it's a little bit more safer and more secure in our understanding of what's going on to be able to do that. But we're still looking forward to hosting that hui next year.
Well said. Thank you for that. Thank you, Moko. Rachel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to acknowledge my fellow elected members and in particular Councillor Stratford, who it's an absolute pleasure to be on a council where we work so well together. And full disclosure, I had a school holiday trip booked with my whānau, which is why I asked to move my meeting, whereas Kelly had a lot more professional reasonings, but was willing to work with me on that. So I just really wanted to acknowledge how lucky we are to have such a proactive council who works together. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for those comments, Rachel. Kim, we'll put the motion. I'm in favour. Anne?
In favour.
David?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Felicity?
Aye.
Matty?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Moko?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. There's a supplementary agenda. Item 6.9 to do with the nomination of elected members.
Okay.
It's.
Oh yeah.
I don't know whether you can see it, but that's not what it looks like from a hard copy perspective. I will move. Do I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
I'll second.
Thank you, John. And I noticed, David Clendon, you're conflicted because you're one of those. So we'll.
I'll abstain on this, Mr.
Yep,
Mayor.
thank you. Now I saw a hand up. Kelly?
Yes, thank you. This is one of the items that, look, I can determine in my own self that I can't do something. Deputy Mayor Court, I've got a lot happening over the next 3 to 7 months, so I could not take on an appointment to a hearing. But I also want to point out that in the report it says something along the lines of, we've got a list of commissioners that council can appoint, but I can't remember if it's on my regulatory and compliance committee or Rachel's strategy policy committee. There is some work. I think Teresa Burkhart and team were working on a new list and bringing it back to us to confirm. So I just want to make sure that that hasn't, Dr. Dean or Darren, that hasn't been overlooked and that stream of work is coming back at some stage. Perhaps it won't be in time for the appointee, but I just want to make sure that that's going to happen. I'm going to mute somebody.
Dean or Darren or Sean, are you able to comment on that work still progressing?
I'm quite happy to comment on that. Thanks, Councillor Stratford. Your Worship, happy to pick that up offline with Dean, and we'll make sure that it is progressed through either of the committees.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Felicity, you wish to comment?
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to raise that as an elected member, I'm happy to undertake that commissioner training as well, just to increase the pool of available elected members, noting that there are limited elected members as part of that pool. So that can be on the to-do list for this coming year.
Thank you. Darren and Dean and Sean, if you can make a note of that, please. Kelly, your hand's still up. You wish to comment further? No, you're okay. Okay, there's no other comments then. I will ask put the motion. Oh, sorry, hang on. Belinda's got a comment. Where are you, Belinda?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Really just in relation to the report, not in relation so much to the actual recommendation. I just want it noted on page 6 to express my concern on behalf of the community board in relation to the fact that this should have been commented on in relation to the community board views, in the sense that this has been a really sensitive issue in the Rangitani community. I think given the high interest in the community and the community board's views that were sought throughout the process in relation to the reserve, I understand that this is water-based, but we are all aware that there has been the community board has been heavily lobbied and presented to on numerous occasions over the last year in relation to this proposed development. And I think it's a bit remiss of the report not to actually acknowledge the involvement there, the information that has come to the board, both from the two Rangitani residents in the recreation group, Far North Holdings and their consultant, all presented to the board in our public open forums, and presented excuse me, quite a bit of information and management plans in relation to this development. I just feel for the members of the public listening and for my community board members listening, our final word from Far North Holdings consultant Alistair Wells was that he would come back and advise the board and provide us with updates as to where this was at. About a month ago, I invited that to the table and invited Alistair and to come back and address us and follow up on the update of where things were at, and it hasn't happened. So I've just followed up. Why? Because I don't want this to be seen as something that has, because of the fast tracking process, I don't want it to be seen as something that has been pushed through when it's been heavily engaged with by all parties, including 6 HAP who have been inputted into this. So the process to date, the reason it hasn't come back to the board is simply the timeline. It has been through a process for deliberation, and Far North Holdings was trying to get it approved for the fast tracking and was delayed by Cabinet. This is the reason they have been unable to come back to the community board to update us. It was actually gazetted by Cabinet 2 weeks ago, and Far North Holdings only had, I think, a 5-day window to actually lodge, which they only did 2 days ago. So I just wanted to inform everybody of that in case you were or weren't aware, that it's not trying to be fast tracked, without transparency. And just want to let you know that the board has been heavily engaged, and I would have appreciated some sort of acknowledgement in the staff assessment report. Thank you.
Thank you, Belinda. Thanks for those comments. They're very helpful. I see Anne's got her hand up. Will, do you want to respond to Belinda, or are you happy to wait for Anne?
If I could, Your Worship, just to echo the comments made by Belinda, it was remiss of us. We should have mentioned that in the report. There's clearly been a lot of work, good work being done in the background by the community board, and that should have been reflected in our report. Apologies. Okay, thank you for that. Anne, and then John, and then Kelly.
Thank you, Your Worship. It might have been helpful if I went before Will, because I was going to call point of order, not to be difficult for Belinda, but that this report is solely to appoint an independent commissioner. The nature of the two consents, Otawiri Water Storage Reservoir and Rangitani Maritime Development, are not matters that should be debated as part of this paper, and allowing debate to happen on those two matters could potentially compromise Councillor Clendon's impartiality and neutrality when he sits on that board. So I raise that just as a point of order, that the paper is solely to address that independent commissioner. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Anne. John?
Sorry, I was on mute. I have no comments. I have no issue with this. I support it, and as Anne has pointed out, this is just routine. But I like Belinda's comments because it's generally, and I know it's correct, it's not part of this debate and it's important, but they are, that's something that has been a lot of pressure on elected members and community boards. But I'm sure, so I think just making that point clear to everybody is great. So thanks, Anne. This is just about the appointment.
Yeah, funnily enough, they're both right. Kelly.
Thank you. Yeah, Belinda touched on some interesting points, but I have comfort that the process that the EPA will go through and the support that our staff have to offer through that, you know, although this is new, this is I'm not sure how they will they're supposed to take into account what council says, hapu and iwi and the landowners adjacent, but I would like some clarity on them taking into account feedback from the community board, because it's not captured in their letter to us. Our views are captured, but not the community board. Thank you.
Sorry, Your Worship, I am going to call point of order
Yes,
at this.
I appreciate that. I was just going to make exactly the same point as you. That's an issue we'll have to debate as we proceed. This is purely, Kelly, just an appointment at this stage. But we will follow it through. Sean, if you can, between you and Carolyn and other staff, just take those notes of that, please, as we move forward. Okay,
Thanks, Bishop.
Tend to put the vote. I'm in favour. Anne?
In favour.
David?
Abstain.
Of course, I beg your pardon. Dave?
Aye. Aye.
Felicity?
Aye.
Matty? Rachel?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Mofo?
Aye.
John?
Right.
That's carried. Thank you all very much. Right, that's the supplementary agenda behind us. So I'll ask you now to turn to page 172, 7.1 Community Board Updates. And just I'll move I'll move the resolution, but just in doing so, I want to make the point that what we are trying to do, and it's taken us quite a while to get there and we've still got a way to go, is to ensure that the community boards do have a voice at our council table. And so part of this is having the minutes and so on so that we can read and digest and understand, but also to give the community board chairs or the community board representative an opportunity to also comment on matters that the boards wish to raise and draw to council's attention. So I'll move the resolution. Do I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
Thank you, John. Do you wish to comment, John?
No, I'll leave that to the community board chair.
Okay, all right. Can we come to, is Adele?
I'm here.
You're here. Okay, Adele, can we come to you for Te Heku, please?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to thank Sean for attending partially at our community board meeting, a virtual one online. It wasn't easy, but we got through it. There's really not a lot to note, because the only thing I'd really like to say is that I'm really, really pleased that we had the drainage board meetings and we were able to confirm that at our community board meeting. So hopefully in future the drainage committees will be able to work together and the workflow from there will happen. So there's not a lot more to say on my part because it was all virtual. We never had any public forums. So I just that's from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Adele, and Felicity, I'll come to you in a second. I just want to, Adele, also comment to you and through you to the board and to the committee that's involved, the beautification, just done the new Awanui end. That seems to be, I've got to say, a real pat on the back for all involved. Felicity.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for those kind comments about the Te Heku Master Plan. I just wanted to raise something that relates with our workshop yesterday about three waters, and it was really apparent in our community board meeting, as Member Gardner has noted about the drainage. We look forward to getting clarity from central government about how rural drainage will be separated from urban drainage and how that will be resourced internally. It seems to be quite messy at the moment, where we have a alliance agreement with the contractor, and then we have a separate rural aspect, and the two don't seem to be meshing. So once we get that direction from central government, hopefully we can set up our internal systems to be able to address the rural drainage separately, if that's the direction from central government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Felicity. Andy, you've got a comment?
Through the chair, if I can just comment that the government has now, the DIA have now issued guidelines on future stormwater management. We have loaded that document into the members' lounge. It on a first and overarching read, it does appear to leave almost as many questions unanswered as it does answer them. But I think it would be useful for those interested in stormwater, if you get the opportunity just to read through that document. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I thought it was quite a stormy report, actually. Oh dear. I really do have to stop doing that. Okay, if there's no other comments, I will, I beg your pardon, no other comments from Te Hiku. We'll come to, is there anyone here from Kaikohe Hokianga? I don't think Mike's on, is he?
Yeah, I'm here.
Is Mike here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, right. Well, the floor is yours, sir. Welcome. I can't see you anywhere, but...
Oh, hang on, let me do it. Hang on. Just do this, eh? How's that?
Oh, there you go. Gotcha. There you go.
Look, no, I'd like to keep my comments to those items on our minutes, and in this particular month there are no comments. We had a workshop the other day to discuss strategy with regards to the things that aren't getting done in our ward.
Yes.
And so what we'll be doing is we'll be adding those things to our minutes, so that when I'm able to bring it to the council here, they're obvious and they are, I guess, agreed by our committee, our community board, that they are important. So in this particular case, the minutes stand alone, and that's all I have to say. Maybe Moko and John have something to add, but I don't. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. And can I just say thanks, because that's what I'm hoping will come out of having the minutes here, that there will be a list from the community board saying these are matters that are of interest or concern to us, and we need to have them followed up. Thank you. John or Moko, would either of you wish to comment on from the Kaikohe Community Board perspective?
No, I actually did, well, only one thing, but that is I sent a request for information, and that was prompt and came through, and it's really anticipation of what I heard in a community board workshop. So that's all, and when that time comes, as Mike said, we will be making comment publicly. Thanks.
Thank you. Moko, any comment?
No comment. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you. All right. We will then come to Belinda, Bay of Islands, Whangaroa.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, just a few things to address really in relation to our minutes here. The first thing, we've had a really challenging couple of months around bylaws and have learned an awful lot as a board and continue to learn in relation to the bylaws and the policies. Out of a recent application in Russell, we came out with the realisation that we actually needed to look at doing a Russell placemaking plan along the Strand to actually resolve all the issues in Russell instead of focusing on one non-fit-for-purpose bylaw, and address everything fairly and squarely, and bring the community into it, which I think is a really positive move moving forward. That's what it's there for. Just want to thank the council for the increase in that placemaking fund to our community boards. Without that, we certainly wouldn't, it's an enabler for us with these opportunities to actually take them and run with them and work with communities. So thank you for that. Hopefully we can turn a negative into a positive. Just for the members of the public listening on, and for yourselves, some information on our funding, where our money goes. The community grant fund is the most exciting thing we do to make a difference in our communities. We gave $7,500 to the Kerikeri Gymnastics Club towards their venue hire This is required. They're struggling to meet their commercial rent while they're in temporary premises. I think it's important to acknowledge these things. We gave about $2,500 to the Jazz and Blues Festival. This is an annual application, and we provide a shuttle bus that assists with the parking issues and drink driving issues. The probably most exciting one for you to all be aware of moving forward is $4,000 to the Henry and William Williams Memorial Museum Trust. This is seed funding for a facilitator to prepare a concept document for an exhibition to be held in the Waitangi Treaty Grounds for the, it's the bicentenaries, the 200 year of the European settlement of Paihia. The exhibition will run for 6 months. The Waitangi National Trust have donated the upstairs room of their museum area, and it's December 2022 to May 2023. So that's a big thing for the Bay, for our ward, in fact for the district. Just to note that so we've started off, it's really for a museum curator to actually start the process, and there's a lot of work being done with Waitangi and Paihia to work together collaboratively on these. So just something exciting to look forward to. It's going to be pretty big. We also gave $10,000 to our Kerikeri Community Charitable Trust towards a permanent Christmas tree. Loved their initiative of sustainability, and it'll be used for providing, permanent future Christmas festivals that will run for quite some weeks prior to Christmas. The tree itself will have probably a 10-year life. Don't expect to see it this Christmas due to the shortage in supply and transport issues in relation to COVID and things, and the work on the domain, but it will be forthcoming and something really exciting to look forward to. Sustainable Christmases in Kerikeri for our district. We gave $5,000 to Te Puna Aroha towards the Moriwa Christmas Festival. Sounds a lot of money, $5,000, but unfortunately when we have road closure applications, half of that money, $2,500, will go on road closure. And I think it's really important to note that for these small communities in our district, that it can be quite costly to run community events. $3,000 went to the Bay of Islands Walkway Walking Trust for signage in their Russell to Okiato Pathway initiative. Biggie was $30,000 to the Whangaroa Community Trust. This was for the playground, Kaio Playground shade sales, 4 sales to provide a shade structure. One of the things that came out of this was the great community project on the reserve there with the toilets, the placemaking and the playground. We just like it noted that the health and safety issues around these installations of shade should be addressed and included in the initial design stage. Was quite good to actually identify that, because sometimes they can cost as much as the playground. So be they more than just trees. So we were unsuccessful in the long-term plan, getting that $30,000. So I just would like to note hands up to the community board for actually making that happen. It's really hard to use a playground. It's a really vital piece of equipment in that community, and it's way too hot to use the slide and the equipment in the summer. And I think this is something that we need to look at under health and safety moving forward. And finally, just over $5,000 to the Kerikeri Sports Complex Management Group. This is for the toward the new playground in the Bypass Sports Grounds, Kerikeri. We actually did fund them for a feasibility study, and they had such amazing support from the community with some pro bono work that they have come back to us and asked if they can keep the surplus to start seed funding for the actual construction of the playground itself. So that's me. Thank you. All good stuff.
Thank you, Belinda. And just 2 comments. I really appreciate that report, and it's great to see you and the other community boards working in your community and bringing them to the attention of the council, because that's the very purpose. So I appreciate that. Secondly, you mentioned road closures for Christmas carnivals. It was raised this morning on the business committee meeting, and the suggestion is that there is a joint road closure application for the Christmas carnivals in all the towns, with a view to reducing the cost to each of the committees organising the carnivals. That's been put in place. Ken Lewis is actually having a look at that and giving us advice, working with Annika from Blah Blah Marketing or the business representative from Pai here. So that's just so you're aware of that. Anne, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to say exactly the same thing. It came up this morning, Belinda. So Annika is collating contact points for all of the Christmas parades across the district with the view to putting in one traffic management plan on behalf of everyone to save that $2,500. I'm not quite sure how that would work from a regulatory compliance window, or even if that's strictly legal, but she is asking for everyone to contact her with details. So great initiative.
Yes, and Ken will be working with her. Thank you, Anne. Kelly, you've got your hand up. And then Rachel.
I just wanted to acknowledge Belinda's report back there on all the funding approvals from the Bay of Islands Whangaroa Community Board. It's so nice to hear all the positive stuff because there's a lot of negativity out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Rachel.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for that great verbal report to go alongside your written report, Belinda. I just wanted to highlight the board's willingness and also the strategy and policy team's willingness to work together in a proactive way at how we can be better in this space from a bylaw point of view. So slowly but surely we're making some good progress there. I really wanted to acknowledge that. Also, just in terms of the shade sails and playgrounds, I think what's become really apparent is because of the lack of asset management information that we've had in the past, we haven't been able to make a higher level strategic decision around things like shade sails and saying, you know, from a policy point of view, all of our playgrounds need to have shade sails and we need to provide for that as part of the project. But I do know that there's some really good work going on in that space. I think what it's done for me is highlighted how we can improve on that LTP process as a council and the way that we really take on board the advocacy from community boards. So fingers crossed we can exercise some of those learnings in our annual plan process. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. If there are no more discussion, I'll put the motion. Thank you, Kim. I'm in favour. Anne?
In favour.
David?
Aye.
Dave?
In favour.
Felicity?
In favour.
Matty?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye. Apologies, technical difficulties.
Kelly?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you all very much. I'll now ask you please to turn to page 204, 7.2. I want to move the council action sheet, and in doing so, I want to compliment Kim and Aisha, or Aisha and Kim. The report you've done here is outstanding as far as I'm concerned. It keeps alive those issues that we've commented on previously, gives us an update of where we are. So thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you, John. John, do you wish to comment?
Just for clarity, of those items in the action sheet, how many have been done? You know, I'm having to read through and just see. So everything that's on there, I take it it's there because it is still in progress.
Correct. Yep. And what will happen, John, is that the ladies will give us an update at the next meeting as to where they are, if there's still issues. That's the whole purpose of the action sheet.
Yeah, I realise its purpose. It's just some of these things have been there for a while. They seem to be quite slow and progressing.
Well, and so one of the things, two things can happen. Either you can follow them up as an individual councillor, or bring it to the notice of the council if there's any issues that you feel need to be. I see Kelly and Rachel have got their hand up. I'll take you, Sean, first. Just you might wish to respond.
Yeah, just in the positive to Councillor Vucic, this is new, obviously a great innovation for visibility for elected members, and we take whatever feedback you've got for us. Obviously, there's an enormous amount of resolution that is fully dealt with that we really would prefer not to give you more trees worth of annex on what the completeds are. But if you see something there that is taking longer than you think fair gestation would be, even now we'd love to take a note on what you think is taking longer. All of these things, the bigger the resolution, the longer the gestation, all of them are, in my assessment, following a normal sort of track to get done, and we're ticking them off at a really good pace. But please do put your hand up if you think something's inadequately progressing.
Thank you. Can we go Kelly, Rachel, and then Dave?
Kia ora, thank you for that. I really like seeing the action sheet, but it's been raised previously that the B part of our extraordinary meeting that was held in May regarding Māori wards, which reads as immediately reconsiders its current committee structure and membership and delegations to ensure iwi hapu membership to council committees and community board committees, that hasn't landed on the action sheet and it's still not here. And I know I've raised it earlier in this meeting, but yeah, do we need to move a notice of motion to get the ball rolling? I would really.
Yeah. No,
Thank you, Your Worship.
We don't need a
I see
notice of
Caroline
motion.
wants to reply.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an unfortunate oversight on our behalf, Councillor. Right. We will make sure that it's added to the action sheet, and apologies for that.
And can I just make the point that
possibly, sorry.
I was just going to say, and if I can make the point that if there are other issues like that you've just raised, Kelly, that should be on here, please make sure that it's brought to Sean or Carolyn's attention, or Kim or Aisha's, just so that it's noted, because that's what the purpose of this is, just starting off. So it's a learning in that sense. But thank you for drawing that to our attention. That's really important.
And I just need some clarity. Is it going to be considered committee by committee, those appointments, or are we doing it as a review? Like, do we want to have a paper and just
be part of the representation review that's happening, I assume?
Oh, I think that's separate. We can appoint now.
Through the chair, Will and Caroline, would you like to give an update, if you can, on where we're up to with that piece of work?
Sorry, Will, did you want to go ahead before me?
No, go on first, Caroline. If I'll fill in if there's anything that you don't cover.
So I feel like I'm doing the proverbial pass. The appointment, the advisory committee or appointment of Māori representatives to any of our current standing committees is actually a piece of work with the Te Hono team. So I would need to defer to Darren to be able to answer that particular query.
Yeah. Through you, Your Worship, if I can just add, that's what I was going to say. There's a joint piece of work between the Te Hono team and Democracy Services. So Darren and I will take responsibility for that and take that on and bring it back to members as soon as it's practical.
Thank you.
If I could jump in, Your Worship, I haven't had a Te Māori portfolio. Thank you, Your Worship. I haven't had a Te Māori portfolio committee meeting in a while, but at our last one, the update was that we were looking at coming back to council to establish like a working group, and then for how we can action that now. I do understand though that Te Hono have lost a few of the members, including the member who was supposed to be writing that report to come to us. So I'm waiting for my next portfolio meeting so that we can never catch up on just that. But thank you to Councillor Stratford for raising it, because it is really important.
I agree, and thank you, Moko, for that update. And if you can continue to keep working with Darren and Will and Caroline and others, and it looked like you probably can't hear me. But anyway, if you could keep monitoring that, we would be grateful. Thank you, Moko, because it is important. Kelly, is that? You've still got your hand up, Kelly. You okay? Rachel, and then Dave.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had a learning comment and then a question. So just in the interest of continuous improvement, it would also be great to see the climate change roadmap adoption resolution tracked on here. There were quite a few portions to that aren't all closed. So that feedback. And also there are approximately 40 resolutions that we passed to LTP deliberations that will require some tracking. Obviously, I'm not overly keen, as Sean said, to waste lots of trees and get all of those resolutions on there because that's quite chunky. So that might need a conversation around efficiencies of how we can track those, but just making sure they don't fall off because there's some really important pieces of work in there as well. My question was in regards to Resolution 2020/19 for solid waste, and the commentary around that is that a regional approach is being developed, which is awesome. It's great that we are looking for those efficiencies. But B requests a report outlining the findings of the review. We were conducting a Section 17A service delivery review, including future service level enhancements for when the review is completed, and that's district specific. So my question is, where are we at with that Section 17A service delivery review, and when can we be expecting to look at options of how we can improve efficiencies and achieve better outcomes as a district as opposed to the region? That's my question. Thank you, Your Worship.
Sean, are you or one of the staff able to?
Yeah, I do have a comment, but Andy Finch, would you like to comment?
Through the chair, I'd like to comment that Corporate Services are currently preparing a paper following the deliberations meeting and the volume of work that was assigned to staff that will be considered by council in due course around timing and what gets delivered and what might be deferred for later in the year or later years. Thank you.
Well, just before I come to Dave, Will, you've got your hand up?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to add to Andy's point, the session that Andy's talking about is scheduled for the first workshop on the annual plan, which from memory is on the 29th of this month.
Okay, thank you. Rachel, you've still got your hand up. Are you?
Apologies.
Yep, okay. Dave?
Yeah, Resolution 2123 in relation to parking enforcement services, and I noticed in the notes that a trial began on the 1st of July, and I'm just wondering if is there a result to that, or as to how many, how much enforcement is going on in terms of that area, that space.
Yeah, there is news on that through the chair, and if it pleases you, we get Dean to comment. Dean Mybig. You're on mute, Dean.
My apologies. I was on another call, Sean. I just heard the tail end of that. So,
yeah, Councillor Collard's.
I got caught out there.
Yeah, good as gold. We're just going through the outstanding resolutions and the progress on them. The one that's been addressed is the parking warden and Warrant Offence registration pilot that we're doing. So we're just looking for best you can do on an update about how it's running, because I know it's very active for us.
We've been given some direction with regards to, because of the influence of COVID, we've been given guidance by DIA on that, and suggesting that that be deferred out to infringements, that is, be deferred out to November of this year. So our approach to the parking warden and the parking trial is one where we've discussed with police the opportunity to work collaboratively, and also to include MSD in that process. So putting the emphasis on roadworthy vehicles rather than infringements. So where MSD is providing some kind of financial assistance to those who are struggling, that the emphasis is on replacing bald tires, etc. So that's a process that we're following up on. As for the parking warden parking trial or infringements for WAF and license expiries, our approach is a soft approach at this stage, and we are placing reminders under the windshield wipers of vehicles that have expiries, and that is progressing well. There's significant numbers related to that, and we'll just monitor that and report back at the 6-month point provide an update through the Regulatory Compliance Committee to assess how it's all going and make some recommendations for the next phase.
Worth commenting that we're getting an extraordinary amount of positive feedback from people who've been warned but not fined. They're really liking the idea that we've got a soft launch here that's just a heads up first before we get into compliance.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, can I bring up something, Mayor Carter?
Yeah, Maddie, yeah, please put your hand up if you need to speak. Maddie, your floor is yours.
Just to you, Sean, and I mentioned this regarding Kaumau. Now, I got a phone call last night because obviously they know it's on the agenda. And the words expressed to me weren't very good, pretty foul, and I supported them too. We were immediately supposed to remove all the illegal obstacles. Why isn't that being done? What's the problem now?
Through the chair, I'm in contact with this issue on a daily basis, which is unusual for my chair. So the NTA representative is going to be in touch with the locals today. I've got a lunchtime meeting with her today to make sure she's fully briefed in. The aim is to take everyone with us on a reduced timeline, which Council has held us to through the last resolution. So we could do this with bulldozers and police, but I just think that's not an intelligent way of dealing with the issue. But for a few days, we've managed to get some people on board. What will happen next is a meeting of the community, which will include our team leader for NTA, Apakali, and Tracy Hecker, who's one of the is the representative on the iwi side, and Garth Schofield, who is the lead on the other side. And we'll talk about the three elements to this, include the speed humps on the tar sealing of the road to the toilets, and the removal of the speed humps on the shingle. So it's a matter of just taking as the few days that we needed to see if we could do this diplomatically, and I believe we're there at the moment. So you'll see some activity next week. If you've got a particular complainant, councillor, that's that I could give a call to, perhaps you can give me their number and phone number, and I can give them a ring.
Thank you, Sean, for that answer. And I'm going to curtail the discussion on that now. If there's more you need, order. If there's order, Maddie, if there is more information you need, please phone Sean, or Sean, if you could give Maddie a call after this meeting. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to put the resolution. I'm in favour. Anne? David, sorry. David Clinton?
Aye.
Dave?
In favour.
Felicity?
In favour.
Maddie? Maddie? Rachel?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Moko?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. I'll ask you please to turn to page 212, and I will move the report. Thank you, Sean. Do I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Your Worship.
Thank you, Moko. Moko, do you wish to make any comment as seconder? Otherwise, the floor is open. We'll pass the meeting to Sean. Moko,
I get this is from June, so it is quite a bit out. But I did note one thing when I read it, and that was that we always talk about how bad the sound quality is in our chambers, and it's been backed up by sound scientists from the looks of it. The reverberation levels are higher than recommended. So every time Councillor Stratford has brought up the fact that it's hard to hear online, it's actually got some truth to it. If there is sound more than 500 kilohertz, then it exceeds the recommendations. And just for a little bit of clarity on that, a man will speak between 65 and 260 hertz, and a lady will speak between 105 125 hertz. So just one of our female councillors speaking at a higher pitch will actually exceed the recommendation, or a couple of us males with lower voices. So there you have it, a little bit of science today.
Thank you, Morgan. Rachel, you want to come now or when Sean's finished?
Happy for Sean to speak to his report first. Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yes, May and June seems like a little while ago, but due to the irregularities of COVID and the amount of work that's going into the end of year reporting and annual reporting, this is just by sparsity of schedule for ordinary council meetings is the first opportunity we've had to put it up. If you cast your mind back to May and June, I suppose the big deals were, because we did an enormous amount of closure in the last 2 months of the financial year. Māori wards were signed off by elected members. We executed that Navigating Our Course campaign, which I thought was a great showcase of elected member and staff collaboration as we took 4 major issues out to consultation on the street. As a result of that, we got the LTP hearings completed. On the more challenging side of consultation, our most controversial was, of course, SNAs, where we sent out 8,000 letters to community, and we ended up with quite a few forums and protests as a result of that, and the rest of that's history for now, which you're well familiar with. There's also a period where we saw a lot of developments in the water space for local government reform, and that's ongoing. On the council, on the staff side, quite significant that General Manager Darren Edwards was added to the fleet at SLT level, that we made quite a few awards with Love Your Work awards amongst our highest performing staff. And I'll just acknowledge Councillor Court and also Councillor Smith, who did at various awards turn up to support our recognition of our staff. That's important. Sabine Weber Beard, one of our senior librarians, has been nominated in the period as or chosen in the period as a representative for New Zealand in the Netherlands, which is an exceptional piece of prowess and calibration for where we fit in the community of librarians. Anna Mules took the Nothing But Net strategy, or we took it for her, to nomination for Tuara National Awards with Martin Jenkins, and she got the first. So that's really cool to have that trophy in council. And again, it speaks to our quality of strategy when one of our pieces of work is picked and put into competition and comes out on the podium. And of course, we continue to get quite a bit of feedback from all quarters on the council mark, the general improvement journey over the last 3 and 4 years for our council, and of significance, Minister Nanaia Mahuta singled us out in recognition about what great looks like when local governments are trying to improve themselves. That sounds like a passing comment, but it's really significant when at national level, one of 67 councils is named. Look, in terms of the end of the financial year, I just want to take the opportunity to remind our elected members about what they've done, because in the big picture, winning $120 million of supplementary funding, which ratepayers did not have to fork out for, is something that in 50 years' time we may only note happened once. It's truly historic. We fished very aggressively. A lot of people did exceptional work to get the hooks in the water, and the fact that those are on our books now and progressing in the form of 22 residual projects is a big deal, and that's an event from the last financial year. You'll recall the organisational response to COVID, which is exceptional, the weather bomb of July last year, and then the tsunami of March 21. Most local governments would hope never to have one of these things happen, let alone 3, and so we should pat ourselves on the back for where that's gone. And of course, we've managed the operational response to water shortage across the district, and I'd say we've done that not just adequately but spectacularly, with multiple projects to run water lines, build lakes, put wells, put bores in, And so of significance, for example, we completed Monument Hill in Kaikoui during the financial year. And then, of course, Dean Myberger tell you all about leading a complete reform of the Building Consents Authority status of our council. You know, we are consistently 100% compliant, which I don't think we've been for many years. And that's now well and truly concreted into place. And at the same time, the resource consents process went from about 60% compliant to about 90%, and it's on the rise. So good work on that front too. And finally, I wouldn't list all of the works, footpaths, roads, treatment plant enhancements that have been made during the period, but I would just put a finger up for the delivery of the Kerikeri Wastewater treatment plant, which by some elected members' memories was a good idea in 1989, and which we finally snipped the ribbon on after much controversy during the financial year. And we delivered many others, including the Northland Animal Shelter, for example. Look, I would mention again on the staff side, we really should not underestimate what we've done to build a productive team that doesn't come physically to work anymore. It's exceptional nationally. And during the period, we installed this hybrid working arrangement, which, by the way, is going to be nominated. We're currently building a nomination for that for national level recognition. And of course, we got increasing subscription to Your Voice surveys from our staff. We ran our second big day where we pulled everyone into one place for purposes of getting the workforce aligned and the like. There's a real hum amongst the workforce for morale. We have our issues, but our resilience and business continuity under COVID has been exceptional with remote working set up like it is. So by way of very brief year and overview, an incredibly productive year. I think I'm really pleased with the way the team's working and the way elected members are leading us. That's us. Thank you. Happy for questions.
Thank you. Felicity and then Rachel.
Thank you, Sean, Ngā mihi nui, and thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to raise, I'll give you the page number because there's a number of pages here. On page 233, it just brings up about the development of the district plan, and one of the matters that have just been advertised publicly for an online session is the heritage precinct, or the heritage precincts, heritage zones. And one of the areas that's having a substantial change that's currently proposed is Monganui. I note in those notes there about the consultation with local iwi. And that's great that we've done sort of the eastern based iwi as part of the initial engagement. However, I've had quite strong feedback from the local iwi and hapu from Monganui area and Ngāti Kahu. They're frustrated that this is being advertised without them having initial engagement. Particularly given the number of years of Environment Court action with Ngāti Kahu, I thought that we would have potentially, done that pre-consultation with iwi before advertising that to the general public. So I just wanted to give that feedback that I've personally seen and received. And just to ask the staff about what has been done about, in particular, Ngāti Kahu and the heritage precinct changes at Monganui.
Thanks, Councillor. I might get Darren Edwards to comment on this, but as you'll be aware, I know you're aware because we've had recent conversations about you being nominated onto added to a panel of councillors Stratford and Clendon to go online with a very broad subscription of people who can come in and listen to conversations around heritage and to put their questions in. This is the best we can do under the COVID restrictions to get the 9 or so areas affected by heritage precincts into a consultation round. We're putting quite a lot of effort into this because there's been good feedback and some quite strong feedback about whether the consultation is adequate, and we've been working on this for many months. You raise an issue that's not on my radar with Ngāti Kahu, so thank you for bringing that to my notice, and I'll need to have a conversation with Darren about that later on. But I am happy with the structure of the alternative structure of consultation on the heritage issues, and I might just ask Darren if he's got any supplementary comments.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Felicity, for the comments. Disappointing. Obviously, this report is for a moment in time. So something that we've implemented in the team, and I certainly hope that you're aware of, is specific engagement with iwi and hapu, more so with iwi at that level for us in looking at how we engage for the district plan. Disappointing to hear that we haven't reached out to everyone. We've been really specific in making contact with iwi before we go to the general public, and Greg and the team have worked really hard, and I've been involved in a number of hui that we've attended, so I'll take that one away and just look at where we are with that. The COVID environment has been really challenging. The day we went into alert level 4 lockdowns, we were actually about to embark on engagement with affected parties in the heritage area. So we've worked really hard to come up with something that doesn't stall the process. And where we've landed is the best of what is not a good situation, noting that this is the start. I'm really keen to understand what this engagement on the 1st of October does for our communities, if it meets their needs. And we've already seen the feedback coming from the letters that we've sent out advising of the current process, that there's a need for more consultation. So rest assured, this is the start of a process. We can't simply meet everyone's needs through a one touch point in online environment that we're currently in. So appreciate the comments.
Thank you, Darren. And I just wanted to, thank you for that update, that I'm sure the organisation is aware in terms of statutory provision and weighting that iwi mana whenua, in particular relating to heritage precincts and significant heritage reports that pertain to cultural relevance as to changing the heritage precinct, you would think that they would be consulted heavily before deciding where that line would go and before going out to public consultation in a very public way online. I just do find that a little bit embarrassing as an elected member, considering that we would have learnt from the Taipa wastewater treatment environment court proceedings potentially, and I thought that we had improved our relationships there. So just to note, I'm sure we're going to do better in the future, and thank you for your response.
Thank you, Felicity. Rachel, and then Dave Collard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just 2 quick points before I get into my questions. Firstly, reminding my fellow elected members that we chose not to increase engagement resources around the district plan, so to just keep that in the back of your minds when we have these conversations. The second point I wanted to make was just in response to the Kerikeri wastewater treatment plant that you raised, Sean, and raised what we talk about mokopuna decisions at our table. One of our elected members wasn't born in 1989, and he's celebrating his birthday today. And there are successfully 2 generations in my household in the period from 1989. I was 5 and my children have obviously been born since then. So we are living and breathing mokopuna decisions. Thank you, Councillor Court, for the hard mahi that you have done over those 2 generations of time to bring that to a reality. Just a couple of points that I wanted to raise. The first one will come of no surprise to anybody. Page 226, it talks about the climate change regional response, and it's great to see the progress that's being made there. It sounds like there's some real traction being picked up now that there's regular meetings and things going forward. I just really wanted to reiterate again that climate change adaptation and climate change mitigation are both 2 things that we are obligated to be considering and addressing in our day-to-day as an organisation, with it being our #1 risk. So perhaps just in future, if we can look at celebrating some of the great things that we're doing in the mitigation space as well. That would be really, really awesome. Sean, thank you. Page 233, there are some comments around the Ngāpuhi settlement and the need for Northland councils to start gearing up and working together. That's a really, really good point, and I think it would be great for us as a council to pick up proactively on that. So perhaps, Your Worship, either as a council, we need to look at sitting down with Ngāpuhi and really developing that dialogue and getting an understanding of what that will look like going forward, but maybe also from a Northland Forward Together point of view as well. So I think that that's a great conversation that we can be having as a council going forward. And then the last one, the customer experience program, and that report starts on page 235. It's so awesome to see that software coming to life and really delivering on some solid learnings. It's a fantastic tool, obviously, and it's going down really, really well in the public. So my question is, how do we have any opportunity to look at how we can really use that data from a learning point of view? And perhaps our annual plan might be a good trial of that to look at some areas of improvement and make sure that we're capturing that in our fit for purpose levels of service, whether there's any opportunity to be doing that in the early stages of our annual plan. That would be great. My final point was about the acoustics, but Councillor Tepania has done very, very well at scientifically celebrating that, so I will leave that with him. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you for those comments. Can we come to Councillor Collard and then Adele Gardner?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I draw your attention to page 215 of the hard copy, because it's different to the numbers you guys are quoting from the from your computers. And it's operational performance. I'm looking in particular at eyesight. We've had 74% increase in eyesight visitor numbers, 96% eyesight retail revenue, 58% increase in eyesight transaction spend, and 98% in transaction numbers. And recently we've been talking about closing eyesights. When you're looking at those type of performance numbers, it would hardly warrant the closure or the reduction of. Is there some relevance that I'm missing, or some points that I'm missing here?
Thank you. If I might, Your Worship, I'll get Dean Myberg to comment on what's being discussed nationally around the rationalisation of eyesights. We have essentially three are loss making and one is profit making, and we put finance into the management of our eyesights and to account that makes up the difference for those unders and overs. The pie here one is a significant subsidy, if you like, on the others. There's no intention for us to close anything because it costs us. It is part of tourism management to stay in touch with our travelling public and overseas visitors. But at a national level, there is a conversation around how to rationalise our eyesights. That is what should be run locally, and whether there's more sense to franchising on a national basis. Before we get to any sorts of decision points around that, we'll get full visibility for elected members. But back to your point, Councillor, there's no intention to close eyesights for any other reason. So the increased business that we're seeing is just purely good news. Would you like to complement any of that, Dean?
Yes, I think just for clarity, if I may, the intent from a national perspective is not so much to close or rationalise eyesights. The question's being asked about our approach or response to a tiered system, and we could opt out of that. That's subject to a further report to the Strategy and Policy Committee, and we also have the recommendation that went to the committee recently to undertake a Section 17A review. So there are quite a few unanswered questions there at this point, but certainly not, the intent is not to rationalise the number of eyesights, simply to review how they operate and whether we want to be part of a tiered system or not. And the or not is important because we have the option not to. The other point I'd make is that our eyesights are also transactional in nature, not only for tourism, but also for receiving payments, etc. So they certainly provide a very valuable service. They double as service centres, particularly in Paihia and Opanoni.
Okay, thank you. Adele Gardner and Dave Clinton, I see that you've got your hand up. Is that so? Can we come to Adele?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. David Collard actually has the same sentiment as myself, so I've taken on board all the comments. Thank you so much. But just outside this report, I just want to thank Janice's team, because I'm getting some good comments out there in the community with Janice's team for ringing up a lot of our ratepayers over this COVID time, for overpayments and things, and they really appreciate it. I mean, it's been great. Thank you so much. But that's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Adele. I appreciate it. We'll make sure it's passed on to her staff as well. Thanks, Janice.
Thank you, Sean. David Clinton, are you?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just two brief issues I'd like to comment. One is to echo Moko's pleasure that we're getting the sound quality attended to in our chambers. I wonder if the next investigation might be into air quality in that room. It might sound like a first world problem, but in fact, we staff and elected members collectively spend hundreds of hours in that room every year. We're making decisions about spending millions of dollars, and I think it's a bad idea to do it when we're oxygen deprived. I've seen people falling asleep. I myself have left that room with a headache because there's simply not enough volume of air in there. So could we please address that? As I said, it sounds like a first world problem, but I do think it's bordering on a health and safety issue. It's not a pleasant place to be. There's no external airflow, and it's yes. So please, could we get some aircon specialist or something in there to sort that one out? My other comment is about the IT updates, which Sean has mentioned. I'm pleased with the focus on cybersecurity. We saw what happened to the Waikato DHB recently that caused massive economic and indeed social impacts from it, a denial of service attack, I think it was. While I'm pleased we're doing that, I'm also aware that we're increasingly becoming sort of IT dependent, moving all of our contact center to cloud-based software, this sort of thing. That's good, but equally there has to be a balance there somewhere between utilising modern technologies, but also getting reliable technologies that are not going to suffer and suddenly find we can't operate as a council. So I just, as a revealing in a Luddite maybe, but I guess the people responsible for this are aware of trying to find that balance between achieving the most and using the most efficient technologies we can, but also protecting ourselves, making sure that some sort of cyber attack doesn't simply shut us down and make us unable to run our core functions like maintaining sewerage machinery and being available for public contact, that sort of thing. So I guess I'm just looking for a comment about how do we achieve that balance between modernising, but also having some rock solid base there that's not highly technology dependent, so that we can keep running as an organisation if we do get attacked.
Thank you very much.
Well, I might ask Will Taylor to comment, but I might also invite Councillor Vucic first, if he might, because what the Audit, Risk and Finance Committee has presided over is, for a start, a reasonably high level of resilience for our IT systems, but since South Waikato DHB failure, a significant addition to the suite through the good work of Will's staff, including Lisa Huria in particular. So I'm quite happy with how we've responded, but better from the mouth of Councillor Vucic and from Will.
Yeah, I, as the chair, I think that's one of the questions I specifically asked of Will straight after the incident you're referring to there, Sean, and I would say staff got onto it pretty quickly and gave a good response to the committee. But Will, you might want to add to that, and that's something we're continually looking at, and that's some of the changes to the access. That's you know, two-factor authentication that's occurred. Well, do you want to add to what I said?
Thank you, Councillor Vucic, and Sean, through you, Your Worship. And I'm going to answer Councillor Clendon's comment directly. which is in a set, and the question is around getting the balance right between technology and more old-fashioned type systems. And to use the phrase, we're currently embarking on a bit of back to the future. If you remember, back 20 or 30 years ago, we used to store data on tapes, and those tapes were could be backed up daily. Well, we don't do that anymore. Everything's done on a cloud. But we've gone back to the future. There's technology now where you can effectively get the best of both worlds, that you can store data off-site and back it up on a daily basis, and that's what we're moving on towards to doing now, so that we can get the best of both worlds. We're also cognizant of the fact that that technology is only a tool, one tool in our armory, and that we have got people systems which Jill Coyle effectively manages. So we've got both technology and we've got people-based solutions. The final point, if I could make, Your Worship, is if there's one thing that keeps me awake at night, it's this issue about cybersecurity, and I've made it my #1 priority since the beginning of this year, as colleagues on the ARF committee can attest to.
Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you for that, and thanks for the discussion, and thanks for the report, Sean. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to put the vote. I'm in favour. Anne?
In favour.
David?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Felicity?
Aye.
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 Maddie, thank you. Rachel?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Moko?
Aye.
And John?
Yep, aye.
All right, thank you very much. Now, thanks everybody for that. What I'm going to do now is move us into committee and then ask for a 10-minute comfort break. And then we'll just go and deal with the committee issues. There's only a couple there. So I will move that we go into committee. Do I have a seconder, please?
Second. Happy to second.
Thank you, Moko. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, we'd better vote on it, I guess. Better do the normal vote, Kim, if we can. Aye for me. Anne?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Dave?
In favour.
Felicity?
Aye.
Maddie,
Your Worship,
Maddie?
just before
Aye.
we move into public exclusion, I just want to know I'm going to be abstaining about Kaitai water, and I'll leave the meeting.
That's
Thanks.
it. Okay, thank you. Rachel?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Moko?
Aye.
John Busich?
Aye.
Right, so we're now in committee, so we can turn the mic off, please. And a comment that she wishes to make. So I'll turn the meeting to you, Aisha. Thank you very. That's really lovely. And Aisha, can we just endorse that? All of us join with you in wishing you all the very best, Kim. Thank you for all the help you've given us, and we look forward to continuing working with you in a different capacity. But thank you so much.
Yeah, well done, Kim.
Yep, I think it's endorsed by all of us. So thank you. Okay, well, if there's no further business, I will now declare the meeting closed, and thank you all for your participation, and we look forward to catching up at committees and council meetings soon, face to face, Rachel.
And we will do a closing karakia.
Sorry, what's that?
Who's doing the closing karakia, sorry?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, thank you. Closing karakia. Will we let the birthday boy do it again, or?
Yep, happy to.
Thank you.
Might have to pray to bless my drink that's in for me as well. Ke nui tātou, kia tau kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou ariki, o he kirito me te aroha o te ata me te whiwhinga taitanga ki te wairua tapu ake ake. Āmene. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks everybody.